The first season of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms has concluded, and we're on the road to Season 2, with Duncan and Egg heading towards their next adventure in the Seven Kingdoms. Or, if you agree with the little Targaryen prince, the Nine Kingdoms. But we won't have long to wait until the Sworn Sword, as filming is already underway and will release next year. Annual releases for Thrones are back, as the plan is to get episodes out every year, which is a massive deal because fans are sick of our favourite shows taking at least 2 years to return. And unlike House of the Dragon, Duncan and Egg doesn't have a large ensemble cast, filming in multiple locations, nor does it require much work in post-production. There's no need for heavy CGI shots of dragons, nor large armies. So Duncan and Egg will return in 2027, this time in the Reach, during a terrible drought, a year and a half after the tourney at Ashford Meadow. We won't dive too deep into spoiler territory, but the gist of the Sworn Sword is as follows. Duncan and Egg are caught up in a land dispute containing a specific river between House Weber and House Osprey. Dunk's loyalty is tested as he has sworn a sword to Sir Eustace Osprey, but we have all seen the type of man Dunk is. He has a strong sense of right and wrong and the true virtues of knighthood, and will risk his own life to defend the ideals Sir Arlen of Pennytree taught him. Dunk had to fight for his own life during the Hedge Knight, but now during the Sworn Sword, he will have his first test of the messy politics of Westeros, and the shadow of the Blackfire Rebellion still looms over the realm. And even though they are currently at peace, remember many lords sided with the bastard Black Dragon Blackfire over the true-born Red Dragon of House Targaryen. Many houses were punished for their betrayal, and some would still side with the Blackfire heirs if they ever returned. Duncan and Egg will also travel to Dorne, but I expect this will be only a fleeting visit, but I have no doubt they will return one day. George R. Martin has released 3 stories in the Tales of Duncan and Egg, but he has shared plans for at least 10 to 12 stories with the showrunner Ira Parker. We know Duncan and Egg will visit Winterfell one day in an upcoming story, and it's likely they'll travel to all corners of the realm. And even though the first season has been a huge hit, the second is underway, it's likely the third will be confirmed very soon. But I don't think we should look too far ahead beyond that. I have no doubt we'll get the Mystery Knight, they'll complete the trilogy, but what happens after that is still up in the air. We know HBO want more stories, they don't want to drop a successful show, but by the time season 4 is due, will George R. Martin have released more Duncan and Egg books? Or will we be entering a similar situation to Thrones, where we don't have published source material? And remember, there's a massive difference between George R. Martin telling Ira Parker what happens next, than the writers having the physical book in front of them, writing their scripts, using actual dialogue from the text. But we'll worry about that another day, as that is many years off. Let's just enjoy what we have for now. Season 1 was so well done. They stayed true to the spirit of the Tales of Duncan and Egg. It's a modest type of show that never forgot what it was, where it came from. They never felt the urge to try to compete with Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon or any of the other big fantasy shows in terms of special effects or long-winded intertwined plotlines. They weren't given unlimited money and resources to try to compensate for writing and characters. They knew exactly what they had and what they were trying to make. It remained a small-scale story that focused on the everyday Hedge Knight who just happened to stumble his way into the dealings of lords and princes of the realm. And this was always part of the appeal for Game of Thrones for me. It was never just about dragons, White Walkers, nor massive battles. It was the characters we fell in love with. And I feel Duncan and Egg have earned their place amongst the ranks of Thrones characters all those years ago. Individually, they are 2 of the most likeable characters I have seen in quite some time. They're so easy to root for, and they feel like real people, rather than just archetypal custom characters we have had to endure in so many other shows in recent memories. They are far from perfect, they each have their own flaws. Dunk comes from nothing. Every day he had to survive the streets of Flea Bottom and King's Landing. But after a chance meeting with the Hedge Knight Sir Arlen of Pennytree, he becomes the old man's squire. They travel the 7 kingdoms, serving whichever lord will pay them in coin and food and put a roof above their head. It's far from the perfect life, but it was sure better than the hellhole that Dunk grew up in. However, everything changes when Dunk has to bury the old man and find a path of his own. Claiming to have been knighted by the old man before his death, he now goes by Sir Duncan the Tall. He plans on entering the lists at a tourney at Ashford Meadow to earn a few coin, hopefully earn a name for himself. Unfortunately, Sir Arlen was no rockstar knight. He was no Aemon the Dragon Knight, nor Sir Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning. So unless Duncan finds someone who remembers him and vouches for him as a knight, then Dunk will not be permitted to enter the lists. Along the way, he meets a little boy named Egg with a shaved head who claims to be an orphan. Egg offers to be his squire, as every knight needs one, and we spend some time with Dunk attempting to find somebody who can vouch for him. After several failed attempts, help comes from the most unlikely of places, from the Prince of Dragonstone, heir to the Iron Throne and Hand of the King, Baelor Breakspear. The prince remembered Sir Arlen and vouches for Dunk. Dunk just needs to find a way to pay for his own armour and sigil. Unfortunately, before Dunk can celebrate, he gets involved in the dealings of another Targaryen prince, Baelor's nephew, Aerion, who Dunk kicks the crap out of whilst defending the honour of his tourney-crushed Tanzil. As punishment for striking the blood of the dragon, Dunk must partake in a trial of 7, a form of trial by combat fought between two teams of 7 knights. Dunk must now find 6 companions who are willing to risk their lives against Aerion and his chosen. But along the way, Dunk has formed friendships, including the life of the party Sir Lionel Baratheon, an ancestor of the future King Robert Baratheon, his new BFF Raymond Fossaway, and the king who never was, Baelor Breakspear, who rides in at the last minute to complete Dunk's team, whilst the iconic Game of Thrones theme plays. That moment will go down as not only one of the best moments in A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but all 3 Game of Thrones shows. And once again, we are reminded Thrones never needed CGI dragons, ice zombies, or grand spectacles to make us feel something. Sometimes all it takes was the second most important man in the realm coming to the aid of a lowly hedge knight, not for hero points or to aura farm, but because it was the right thing to do. And the trial that follows may be one of the best and most brutal fights in the entire franchise. The flashback to Dunk's early days in Flea Bottom, when he meets Sir Arlen, remains very controversial. But in the end, it helps us understand Dunk's motives, to keep going, to be brave, and to defend the innocent. And when Baelor falls after the trial from the wound inflicted by his younger brother Maekar, there was not a dry eye in the room. Thrones was always known for its shocking and emotional deaths, and Baelor Breakspear has sure earned his place among the ranks of the best. Honestly guys, it's awesome to have a cast of characters who aren't just morally grey with secret agendas or a dark hidden past. And even though Dunk's knighthood remains in doubt, he is shown to be a truer knight than those with flashy armour, famous swords, and an important family name. Peter Claffey is brilliant as Dunk, and every day we learn more about the talented 6'5" former rugby player turned actor. Turns out he can sing, is good with horses, and delivers a great Stewie Griffin impression. Life for us mere mortals sure does suck. And as for Little Egg, Dexter Sol Ansel may be one of the best child actors currently working today. He's extremely lovable, equally talented in both comedy and dramatic acting. Honestly, he has the acting chops of someone much older and more experienced. And the casting department deserve all the praise for finding actors who have great chemistry together. No matter how great Duncan and Egg were as individuals, if they just didn't click, then the show would be dead on arrival. And I remember when this show was first announced, and in the run-up to it, many fans were skeptical. The story is unfinished, and at the time, Game of Thrones was an all-time low. And even though House of the Dragon rekindled some of the magic in its first season, they lost much of the goodwill they earned with the fans in the second. And of course, Duncan and Egg was meant to come out last summer, but was delayed several months. And at this point, many fans were concerned. But in the end, we know it was to coincide with the release of HBO Max in Europe, not because the show was in turmoil. In fact, it was the complete opposite. Fans swiftly got on board after the very first episode. I know not everyone loved the humour, with Dunk taking a dump in the first episode being the standout example, and the shorter run times of around 30 minutes compared to the standard, roughly 1 hour for Thrones, was also another complaint. And some hardcore fans were disappointed that a few important book moments were cut, such as perhaps the best line in the book, spoken by Steely Pate, when reminding Dunk on who he truly is, a knight who remembered his vows. But the showrunner was honest about this. He admitted it was a mistake. He wanted to include that line, but for some reason it got removed. and he regrets it. And I feel we all appreciate when writers are honest with fans and hold their hands up when they make a mistake. But honestly, there was nothing outright offensive about this show, and there was a groundswell of positivity, something which Game of Thrones has not had for many years. And in my opinion, each episode was better than the previous. It got better every single week. There was never a weak episode that stalled the show. I would have preferred the premiere opened with a doubleheader, but in the end, I feel most people enjoyed Duncan and Egg and are eagerly awaiting the return in Season 2. But it's highly unlikely any of the supporting cast will return for the second season, and this will remain true to the books. I do feel characters such as Prince Maekar, Egg's father, yes of course, Egg is actually Prince Aegon Targaryen, the fourth son of a fourth son, whose true identity book fans have been dying to discuss with more casual fans since the very first episode and even before that. And Egg is also Maester Aemon's brother, and one day Egg will sit the Iron Throne as King Aegon Targaryen, fifth of his name, with his best friend and Lord Commander of the King's Guard, Sir Duncan the Tall, by his side. And remember, at the end of Season 1, it looks like Egg has ran away without his father's permission, so I expect that to be an important factor later on. In the book, he claims his father allowed him to leave, he gave him a ring, his sigil. If he ever got in trouble, he can just show this off to prove who he is. And there's no doubt Egg is a good guy, but he is not above lying to get his own way. And this will definitely cause an issue with Dunk further down the line. And Lionel Baratheon will return. He will play an important part in a future story involving a dispute with Dunk and the Crown. And remember, he gave Dunk the chance to join him at Storm's End and warned Dunk that a future war is coming. And like many in the realm, the Laughing Storm doesn't seem to care for the failing House of the Dragon. And the Targaryens of House of the Dragons are no longer the all-powerful kings they once were. Lionel also asked Dunk if he had ever been to Tarth, and remember, George R.R. Martin has confirmed that Brienne of Tarth is one of Dunk's descendants. They're already planting the seeds for Dunk's endgame as the one-day legendary Lord Commander of the King's Guard with 4 pages in the White Book. And guys, if they can keep the quality high for all 3 seasons, if fans are still on board by the time the Mystery Night wraps, and of course, fingers crossed Martin releases more books by the time we get there, I'm all for this. But if we go into Season 4 blind, let's just hope the writers have what it takes. But guys, let me know your thoughts on Duncan and Egg and Night of the Seven Kingdoms Season 1. Have you rewatched the show? Did binge watching it make you feel any different? And let me know your favourite moment in all 6 episodes. No doubt Baelor's entrance will be there, but I think my favourite might be the very end, where Sir Arlen rides off in a different direction to Duncan and Egg, a true passing of the torch moment. But I also like some of the smaller moments. Duncan and Egg having a bacon and egg sandwich is straight out of the books. George R. Martin loves those kind of moments. And I also like the moment when Egg shouting, "Do you yield, Blackfire bastard?" Anyways guys, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.